Did you know Amazon provides ways of working that fits your lifestyle? They know you value your time outside of work, juggling family, school, friends, or other activities. That's why they offer a variety of shifts that work for you. There are full-time, part-time, and even temporary opportunities that can work with your schedule. With great starting pay and sign-on bonuses, if you want a career that fits and adapts to your lifestyle, head to Amazon.com/apply. Amazon is a proud equal opportunity employer.
Telling you, bro. What's been happening, bro?
Not too much.
Still hitting more Peggy-O's?
Hi, my name is Shane Theriot, and you are listening to The Riff Raff. Music, stories, and insights from the front line. Riff Raff. My guest today is Mr. John Scofield, or Sco as he is known among contemporaries. You know, John really needs no introduction, though. He's one of the most recognizable voices in modern jazz guitar. He's played with everyone from Chet Baker to George Duke to Miles Davis to Herbie Hancock. The list goes on and on. He's one of my faves for sure. I first met John in Europe backstage at a jazz festival, 5 years ago, but we didn't really get to be friends until I moved to New York a year or two ago, and we found out we were neighbors. So we get together and play every so often when we're both in town, as you can hear in the background. I can honestly say that he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and he actually gave me one of his Sco signature model guitars for my birthday. It's such an amazing guitar. So given the chance to interview John, I just asked him questions things I wanted to know when I was a kid, reading magazines and things that I always wondered about. I hope you enjoy. Well, thanks, John, for coming over, man, to the house.
Got it, Shane. Wow. Get to hang with Shane. This is happening.
Yeah, I just, we can talk about whatever, man.
We're lucky we get to play guitar all day, and except for when we don't.
What are you up to right now? You just finished your, I know you finished that last record. It's great.
Well, yeah, with the record that came out, whatever it's called, Past Present. Yeah, with on tour a lot with that band, with Joe Lovano and Bill Stewart and Ben Street on bass, and we've been playing a lot, and we will do more of that this year.
Yeah, that's a great band.
And in the summer, I'm getting ready to do this project with Brad Meldau on electric keyboards with drummer Mark Juliana.
Yeah.
And then I'm playing guitar and bass.
Which started out as a double neck.
I tried the double neck. As of right now, I'm not going to use the double neck because I got a stand for the bass. So I can play guitar and then run over to the bass and just start playing that. It's basically to play bass behind Meldau's solos.
Oh, I see.
Because Brad is like doing a mini Moog bass kind of thing and playing piano and Rhodes and synth, and he does all that, and then he wants to when he takes improvised solos, it's nice to have a bass player behind him, So I'm going to do that.
Are you going to put the guitar on the stand and walk over?
Yeah.
Or the bass on the stand?
The bass is on a stand, and I kind of just go over. Right now, we've only rehearsed twice, so I don't know, but right now, I kind of just walk over to the stand and play and actually leave my guitar on where it is and just play the bass out in front of me. It didn't feel that bad. Or you can put the guitar down on your side like you're Bruce Springsteen or some rock star where you put your guitar down like that and just stand there playing the bass.
I like the stand, man. It's like the cat from Air Supply used to have his 12-string Ovation.
Right, yeah. Bands used to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yes did some stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember going over and playing that other double neck you had.
That was pretty funny that day.
Inch
I bought two double necks. The first one that I bought was like $300, and it was amazing that they had even made this somewhere. I don't know. It was rough. And then I bought a nice vintage Ibanez, but I think I'm going to just play these two. Use my regular guitar and then walk over to a bass on a stand. That seems to be the answer.
I'm sure Susan's happy about this, not having to ship a double neck, fly.
Right,
double
neck. Double neck is huge.
Yeah, man. I don't know how you would even, it's not like you rent it anywhere either.
No, you can't. They don't have them that are guitar and bass.
SIR doesn't have them.
No, they might have one that's 12 and 6, but not 4 and 6, you know. And then I'm doing this record of country tunes that I'm getting ready for. We're going to the studio April 1st, and we're going to do country tunes and jazz them up, you know, turn them into bebop on some of them anyway.
That's great, man. What's the name of the tune you played at Birdland? You told me this already.
That was great. Just a Girl I Used to Know.
Yeah, that was beautiful, man.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a record.
Cowboy
You're going to do
Jack.
that one too?
Yeah, I want to do that one, a bunch of them. And it's that same rhythm section plus, which was Steve Swallow and Bill Stewart, and Larry Golding's on keyboards.
Nice. Great band.
Yeah, no vocals, none of that. It's going to be a jazz record, you know, with... but, you know, you can play those country tunes. It's kind of like blues or something. That when the changes are real simple, you can stretch out on them, I think.
Yeah.
And, well, we'll see. It's an experiment. You know?
Harmonically, it's a good foundation to improvise on.
Yeah, because there's not a whole lot of changes, actually, you know. And I figure we can swing them, some of them, and then just play the kind of, like the one I was playing for you before, Mama Tried. Yeah. It's like a jazz, an old standard or something when you kind of make the changes.
Could you play a couple, just give me a little sneak?
I mean, the original is you know. But it's also...
Yeah. You're putting all the 2 5s in there with the... Yeah.
And then you can just blow on that like a jazz tune. Like that.
Yeah,
and so
really nice.
we're going to try doing some stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be amazing. That's great. Yeah, that's really hip. A lot of those country tunes, they're just 1-4-5 with an occasional 2. Yeah. You know, things like that.
3 chords and the truth.
Yeah. That's all you need. When you play a lot, you know, I know like part of your sound is a lot of the open strings inside is that something you must have worked on it at some point.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean.
Or did it just sort of happen on its own and you just sort of.
Well, I heard other people doing it too. I mean, Jim Hall in jazz used to use that, and then Bill Frisell has really developed that. And it's something also that comes from rock, you know. I mean, I don't think Barney Kessel and those older guys hardly played any open strings because they were trying to sound as un-guitar.
Yeah,
they didn't play those chords. You know, they wanted to sound like 1950s jazz. You know, but there are a lot of possibilities for voicings, especially when you think about getting close voicings. You know, where the notes are closer together. You can't play those inversions on the guitar, you know, like D, like the first major 7 I played was like that.
So the B
with the open B. That only works in that one key, right?
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of hard to. Yeah, I mean, well, that's this. Yeah, you actually can play it, but then you can stick the open E on there too. So I mean, it just gives you some nice kind of open, closed position things. You know, I mean,
like a B major.
I mean,
oh yeah,
that right there, A minor 11.
I've heard you do this one, I think, too. The C sharp 7 with the sharp 9 on top.
Yeah, that's probably the first one I learned. Taxman.
Yeah, that's Taxman. That's right. That's what that is.
Yeah, I learned Taxman as a kid, and I knew it had to be in the key of C sharp. You know.
Or the rock one is this one.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Stone Temple Pilots and those kind of bands. You know, they all.
Yeah, they know about that too. Yeah. You play this one in C sharp? I know you do, man.
I may have played that. I've never really. Sounds like Josie.
Josie? Yeah, right. The
I've never
beginning
played
of
that
Josie.
voice.
It's nice sharp. That's like it's taking that and going a step further, putting the 13.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a cool one.
You know what's weird is I'm doing all these country tunes and they sound good in D, man. You know, D just there's a bunch of them. You know, these tunes are like the other ones,
Yeah.
You know what's really weird is we're gonna. I know you know this.
Wildwood Flower.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do that? Oh, cool.
It's a weird ass form, right? So I was thinking, do 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 do. It's like a 5-bar phrase. Do 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 do. 3, 4, and then it's 4 bars. Do 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 do. And if you just keep that as a bass line, then you go, don't play the chords, but just play.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
You can play
That's
some jazz on it and
Yeah.
you swing it.
Yeah.
But not have anybody play those chords. Just believe like bass. Swallow.
Yeah.
And not have any chords, Because it'd be too locked in if you got those chords going at the same time.
Yeah, that's funny. I wanted to ask you about this too. It's a funny story. This is a long time ago. Obviously, I didn't know you then, but there was a clinic I went to once, and you were playing Protocol. And somebody asked you, you weren't playing, but somebody asked you the question. He said, "How do you play over, Protocol when it's, there's no key center? Like, what are you thinking about when you play it?" And you said, "Well, can you play the riff?" And the guy said, "Yeah." And he go, "Okay, well, tell me when I hit a wrong note." And you started playing over it. And it was just like, it was a big lesson in phrasing and, the way you build tension and the release and,
moving the stuff around and not just playing in one key. But it's not like, I don't know, you just get good at being free. And this stuff, I did it in kind of fusion contexts in the 70s. And to people, it sounded somewhat new, I guess. But it really came from jazz and from the 60s jazz musicians that got really great at that. When Coltrane came in and they started to play over vamps, and it really started with Miles with Count of Blue, where they would play in one key,
But those are more modal vamps you're talking about.
Modal.
Protocol is
but
I don't know if
Protocol
I'm
is
right, but
yeah, it's over that.
is that right?
Yeah, but see, I think of that as all G.
Well, how would you play over that?
I don't think of the chain. I don't think of playing.
G what though? G anything?
Yeah, but I wouldn't play in. I would either play in G or play my shit where I move it around. You know. You know. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Not in one mode, obviously, but I'm moving stuff around, and I've developed a style and a way to do that from listening really to my idols in jazz, you know, from all the great guys in the 60s that were influenced by free jazz, you know, but they would keep playing on grooves and stuff, and Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter and Miles Davis and John Coltrane and McCoy Tyner. And, you know, and all these great players, then the guys that were my age, the Brecker brothers, you know, the way they played, and Joe Lovano, my buddy, you know, not just guitar players, hardly any guitar players, mostly other instruments.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. I hear there's so many signature things you do that they're not repetitive licks that you rely on all the time, but they're still signature, you know.
Yeah, well, I got my licks. Yeah.
Well, I don't mean they're licks that you rely on all the time. I just mean they're signature things.
Well,
like
you know
Herbie
what? I mean,
signature things that you hear.
They are definitely licks that I rely on. But the way I see that whole thing about licks is, if you're playing in the moment and you actually hear it, it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's another thing when your fingers do the walking and you're not actually hearing it. You're just going on like kind of finger muscle memory or something.
No, I didn't mean to imply that it's, you know, but, like Scofield cliches you play. No, they're signature. Like you have a signature sound. And yeah, I don't know how you do it because I always play a lot of the same shit.
Well, I did
Most
too.
Guitar players
Everything I just played, I played before. That's for sure. When we were just playing.
Yeah, but you know, like when I heard you at Birdland, the sense of melody is there. You know, a lot of guys don't have that.
Well, I like that, and I think that's there's the player disease, the jazz disease, of playing too many notes, which we all kind of have, because in order to get any kind of style in blowing and soloing and all that, you're going to try and play fast and learn a bunch of stuff. And sometimes it all comes out and you're not able to sound good. And in order to sound good, you have to pace that stuff with melody, I think. Because melody is the real key to music. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And in this...
That's true, very true.
The rhythm has so much to do with the music that we like, right?
Sure.
So in order to generate an exciting rhythm, you're going to end up playing a bunch of notes and stuff to get that thing happening, that jazz thing. But mix it up with some melody in order to, so it doesn't just sound like complete exercises or
guitar
just guitar man, and also kind of masturbatory.
Yeah. You know, one thing I have to ask you about is like this other signature thing you do where it's like this is a bad impression of it, but you know, you're playing something and you go that.
Yeah, you got it down. You got
I don't know. I've seen you do it before.
I do it all the time.
Where did that come from? Was it just an accident?
I don't know. I just kept making that mistake, and then I liked it. It's supposed to sound like an R&B singer. You know.
Really, an R&B?
Oh, you know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I don't know. You know, it's just he's got that warble.
Yeah, that's it. Very cool. I can't do it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you got it.
I mean, if anybody else did it, they would be like, "Oh man, you're just copying Sco's thing."
I guess that,
but it's
in a
your
way,
thing.
that's the one original thing that I do. I guess I haven't heard anybody else.
I don't think it's the only thing, but it's definitely
that's
the most
only thing
identifiable.
I can think of. That's great.
When you first got to New York, like you're from around this area, right? And then
I grew up in the suburbs of New York, in Connecticut, 50 miles from New York City.
Mm-hmm. And then when you got out of Berkeley, you went straight to New York?
Yeah, I went to Berkeley for 2 years. Then I lived in Boston for a year, just playing around up there. And then, but I had, the desire to move to New York, so I was aiming for that, and was starting to make some gigs in New York with some jazz people, little gigs. Just I would say, okay, pays $50, I'll be there. It even like kind of in the burbs around New York, in New Jersey. I remember playing in Lakewood, New Jersey, driving down. And it was, but it was to play with some of the New York guys, that were my age, and so I was starting to do that, and then I was able to move down in January of 1975.
75. So did you ever have to have any sort of extra day gig or whatever to keep afloat, or were you had enough?
I'm lucky that way. I was doing. First of all, I didn't have much money, but I just would do any gig I could, and which meant Holiday Inn bands or wedding bands, and also giving guitar lessons, and just any of that stuff to stay afloat. And I didn't have to do day gigs.
That's great.
I think it's different for musicians nowadays.
Yeah,
it's a lot different. A lot of really good players end up having to do temp gigs and drive taxis and all that.
I know we've talked about all this before, but me being from New Orleans and stuff, and talking to Mac and Dr. John, Mac, and for the people that don't know, Ricky Sebastian, they've all told me stories about back in the day, and I think Mac and Charlie Neville had a loft that was like $400. I remember it was like $250 a month or something.
Wow.
They just keep it. But Mac said that you were in his band with Ricky, because Ricky was like trying to make ends meet in New York when he first got there, and he would just play with Mac for extra money, and I guess it was you and Jaco got wind of it. Were you in the band the same time as Jaco?
No, I never played any gigs when Jaco played with Mac. And Ricky played drums, another drummer too. I forget, but I didn't play that many gigs with Mac. You know, he called me. He was always getting different bands and stuff. Yeah. But it was the really good horn players, Lou Marini and Ronnie Cuber, Charlie Miller, and yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Mac said that. He said he liked Jaco, but what did he tell me? He said, anytime in my life at that point when shit went wrong, I looked to my right and Jaco was right there.
Yeah. Well, Jaco, when I think the period he's talking about, when Jaco was living in New York and he would make gigs with people that he liked sometimes, Jaco was already a superstar, but he was really in bad shape because of drugs and that sort of stuff. And, yeah.
So that would have been like early 80s?
Yeah, early 80s, yeah.
It's a word of mouth period, probably.
Yeah, he'd already done the word of mouth and that had been real successful, but he was just on this huge downward spiral, almost like a street person,
That's when you guys did the DCI video around that time.
Yeah, right, yeah. But I had met him, in 1976. I had heard about him from Pat Metheny because I knew Pat, even before Pat was famous up in Boston. We were both there on the jazz scene. And Pat told me about Jaco and said, there's this guy, he's the most unbelievable bass player I ever played with. And he's like our age, John, but you wouldn't believe how good he is. Only problem is he's kind of an asshole. And, Jaco was incredible, man. When I heard that first record that he made and first stuff he was doing, he actually blew my mind more than I think anybody I ever met almost. And never met anybody my age who was such a great, he had his own sound. He changed the instrument and he could play funky and he could play jazz. He had this incredible sound on the instrument.
That first record is amazing.
It was amazing.
It was unbelievable to hear that. Even now, I listened to it, a month or so ago. I saw that movie and I listened to the whole record.
Still gotta watch that movie.
You'll like it.
Thank you for lending it to me. I'm hesitant to watch it because it was such a sad demise. It was really bad.
But they don't really harp on that as much. Of course it's in there, but it's mostly positive stuff as much as you could be, The one thing about the movie I thought was interesting is that there's no mention of Pat Metheny. And he must have just
I think Pat doesn't want to be involved in it. It's really weird because he was the guy who was the closest to Jaco.
Yeah, right.
Because they made Broadside Life, Pat's first record after he had, Pat had this whole history with Jaco before that in Miami as young musicians.
Yeah, I figured as much, but
Yeah, I'm not sure what the story is. Yeah.
When you play, you played a whole variety of formats instrumentally, like upright bass sometimes, or Steve Swallow, and I'm sure you must change your approach somewhat. But when you play with an upright, I know I asked you about this once. Are there things you changed in your approach? I guess voicing wise, you might comp more when there's upright.
I don't know. You mean without keyboards, like when you're playing?
Yeah, without keyboards, or even if you had, maybe keyboards with an upright. Is there something you would do different? Or maybe not?
Not really. I try to blend with the band, It depends on what kind of music you're playing, whether I prefer upright or electric. But I think I'm just used to doing it, Shane. I've played with upright my whole life with a lot of, classic jazz type people like that I ended up playing with. So I'm just used to it.
Yeah.
And maybe there's stuff that I do that's subconscious. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this much: electric instruments really work well together. Electric bass and electric guitar, electric keyboards. They just, as soon as you bring an acoustic element in there, it makes it a little more difficult. And I've really worked on trying to get electric guitar to work with upright bass and saxophone. That's part of it's just playing on and piano. That's part of it's just playing softer and trying to play in their space, rather than having just this electric space over on the other side,
Well, Steve Swallow's sort of got his own thing going on with that bass.
He's different from anybody.
Yeah. I always liked that the first couple of records that you probably, I don't even know if they were intended to be records, the ones in Germany.
They were actually intended to be records.
I didn't know if it was just a gig. And after
no, the recording company Endra came and recorded those,
Yeah, that's a great tone. You said that's just a polytone, just cranked
That's
up,
my
right?
polytone. That was back when I could actually bring it to Europe. I brought it on the plane. Wow.
And your 335.
That's my 335, yeah. It might have been the Ibanez by that point. That was around the same time I first got the Ibanez.
Now that Ibanez you have now, that's your main.
Well, they're both
two
main.
of them, right?
I got two of them. One's from 1982 or 81, and this one's from 86.
Okay.
But
and that one has the coil tap.
This one does not have the coil tap.
Oh, what's that little toggle?
Oh, it does, but it's not hooked up.
Oh.
Sorry.
It's a producer switch.
Both of mine, yeah, right. Suck switch. Both of my guitars had the coil tap, but I never used it. And they've been disconnected. But this one has new pickups. These are, what are they called? They're from Memphis. Voodoo pickups.
Oh.
And my guitar tech, Norio in New York City, recommended those. The other Ibanez I have has the original pickups in it.
59 Alnico, whatever.
Whatever their pickups that they were making in 1981.
So did Ibanez just approach you and
back
just say,
then,
hey, we have this guitar?
I was on tour in Europe with Taro Masahino, and I'm sorry, in Japan with Taro Masahino. And it was right before I joined Miles Davis's group, so it was 81. So yeah, that first guitar is 81. And they were trying to get American artists to play their guitars. At that point, they weren't as famous as they are now. And they gave me a guitar. And I liked it.
You just bonded with it.
Well, I had been playing my 335, and I was in Japan. My 335, at that point, I didn't know how to do truss rod adjustments on my guitars. So the guitar was really in bad shape. It needed a real adjustment. And here I was in Japan. I didn't know anybody. And they gave me this guitar at the beginning of the tour. They didn't say use it. They just gave it to me. And I took it out of the case and started playing it. It felt great and it sounded good. And it was similar to the 335, so it wasn't that far of a stretch. And I just never went back to the 335. The Ibanez felt good to me. But I still like my old 335. It's sitting home, forlorn, abandoned in its case.
I played it.
You played it, right?
Yeah, when I was there in October. It's a beautiful guitar. I don't know. You want to play something? You want to play?
What do you want to play, man?
Let's play. What did we play last time? Oh, Hey Joe. You want to play that? Yeah. Those are cool changes to play over, man. They're
it's sort of like
you're talking about the country music thing, just fundamentals, and then.
Yeah, Hey Joe has got some nice changes, right?
What key are you playing in? I thought you were just doing the.
Oh, I'm in the wrong key.
Fun to play over.
Shane, you sound great, man.
Oh man,
that shit is funky.
When I mean, you've probably inspired all the jazzers to buy a distortion pedal. You know, the Rat, and well, I don't even know if you use a Rat anymore. But how did you start that? Like, was it a rental amp that sounded really shitty and you wanted to?
Yeah, I had the Rat and. Yeah, for a while, I had this. Yeah, I had amps that broke up nice. I had an old Fender Tremolux in the early '70s that then it kind of died or something, and then I remember various amps, and then I had an Ampeg amp too that I really liked. That was Herb Bushler, the bass player's wife's amp. And I had it for like 2 years because he wasn't using it. And then he asked for it back. It was his amp, actually. It was in the basement of a club, Sweet Basil's. And I took it home and I said, man, can I use this amp? He said, sure. Then 2 years later, his wife wanted to play her Fender piano through it. So I had to give it back. And then I was playing gigs with twins and stuff, and it just didn't sound good. And I had this Rat pedal, so I just started using that, and that seemed to warm it up. Oh. And I just stayed with it for years. Although for the last 15 years or so, I've been playing through Voxes, and those distort naturally in a nice way. So I haven't used the Rat as much. Right? The AC30, yeah.
Well, in your new record, you just plug straight into the Deluxe, right?
I have an old Deluxe from '64. And I just played straight through it, and I like the tone on that.
You could hear it; it was nice. You could hear that power tube crunch too.
Yep. On
it, there's one tune where you did some bend like this, and you could just hear the tubes crunch.
You can hear them going. Really nice. It's nothing like it, you know.
But you like Marshall Marshalls too, right? You like that
Well, I
Marshall.
like your Marshall. I haven't used them that much, but the times that I have, when they're good ones like this, I think like Voxes and like a lot of amps, they vary, right?
They're sort of, I guess, yeah. I mean, that Marshall, when I bought it, it didn't sound like that.
So somebody...
Well, Scott Henderson had one just like it, and he told me to send it to Custom Audio Electronics. There's a guy named Martin. I don't think he's with them anymore, but that's some mod he did. And it came back a whole different amp, and it's like, it's so good I don't even like taking it out of the house.
So they put the gain thing in there.
They just put a master. They just put a master, and I had somebody work on it up here because something happened with the fuse, and he goes, "Man, it's too hot. Like, why'd they put this hot tube in there?" But to me, it doesn't sound. I've used it on the TV thing, and I just plug straight into it. Sounds great.
Yeah, well, you know what? Never let anybody tell you that you need to change your stuff when something is sounding good. Because I've had various experts tell me, "Oh man, let me have your amp. I'll improve it to amps that I liked," and then I didn't like it as much.
Yeah, which brings up a good point, man. Like gear. Guitar players, I think maybe the last 10 years, I don't know, I never used to really be into gear. And then I was for a little while when I was doing some recording sessions and things. But I think guitar players get overly obsessed with things. And somebody like you could pick up anything, and it will sound like you, and because it's so much in the hands, and the
well, you know what, Shane, you're the same way. And any of us that have been playing for a long time sound like ourselves, and so the different things that we hear on different guitars are a lot smaller than we think they are because we're used to our sound. It's like your own voice, you're used to it. And then you play like a Tele or a Strat, or you play a 335 and you think, oh, they really sound different. Well, they sound different, but not that different. The main ingredient are your fingers and the way you play the guitar.
And I think your ear, maybe subliminally, you adjust, you make physical changes to things, tone or whatever.
Yeah, subliminally, we just start to change it so it sounds the same.
And you can't blame people because there's so many things out there now. It's like
there's so much cool stuff to use.
There's tons of cool stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I was always, before I came up here to New York, I'd always go, wow, man, these New York guys, they use like one guitar and like
really
3 pedals that they carry on a subway or something like that, and out of necessity.
That's a New York thing because we don't have our car.
That's what I think it was. It was out of necessity. They just play through anything and make it work. In L.A., you go to a blues jam and somebody's got a pedal board like 3 feet long.
Wow. Yeah,
I'm just making shit up. But
riding around on the subway, it doesn't work.
Right.
Got to be self-contained.
But it forces you to be, sometimes limitations force you to get more, squeeze everything you can out of. Gear, so.
Yeah. And, I am from the old school, even though the guys that I listened to when I was really young, they all kind of just had one guitar.
Yeah.
Even the rock guys. Jimi Hendrix just always played that kind of guitar. You probably went through many of them. And that's the way it was, certainly for the jazz guys.
Were you ever into Clapton at all, like Cream?
Yeah. I like them.
That's great stuff, man.
I heard them play live in New York,
Wow.
A couple times.
He used to play really loud from what I hear.
Man, it was something. I mean, that was in a way in the 60s, that was a mindset of rock and roll that seemed similar to jazz for me. Like the way Cream would stretch out and play long, and other groups did that too. So that then when I heard Miles and stuff, it wasn't quite so foreign to me.
Yeah, they were really, they were almost fusion-y. I mean, Ginger Baker
fusion,
was definitely,
but it was a kind of fusion.
He was a pre-fusion. He was a jazz drummer for sure. I mean,
when he started,
there were fills every other. Mitch Mitchell too. There was a fill every other bar. There was some sort of jazz fill.
These guys played too much, right?
It sounded pretty good to me.
Yeah.
When you maybe we should talk about Miles a little bit. When you got that call, Mike Stern was on the gig, right? But you got the call to kind of come in and like sort of relief pitcher kind of call because Mike was in a bad space.
You know who really put together Miles's bands back then was Bill Evans, the sax player. When Miles came out of retirement, that was the first guy that he hooked up with. He met Bill, I think through Dave Lieben, and he said he really just thought Bill was the greatest because Bill played incredible saxophone and piano and everything, and was an incredible player. And Miles had him put together the bands. He put together the band with Mike Stern, and he got Marcus Miller on the gig. And then when Miles decided to have two guitars, Bill Evans got me the gig.
And was Miles pretty intimidating? He must have been at first, right?
Oh,
for you to come in?
Yeah. I played with him for 2.5 years, and the first year, I was so scared every time I was around him. You know, he was my idol. Plus, he was this intimidating character. You know.
Yeah, it must have been a learning experience to be around Miles.
It was great to. Well, you know what? All the great jazz guys that I got to hang out with. From the beginning.
Chet Baker, that was even before Miles.
I got to play
right?
with Chet and Jerry Mulligan, and also a lot of sort of lesser known guys in New York. But the whole bunch all together made for this great experience hanging out with the older generation. Steve Swallow, my buddy, is also from that generation, and I'd met him back before I ever met Miles or anybody. And he has been a mentor to me, and you know, a lot of other guys too. I remember like the drummer with Miles, Al Foster. He was really a mentor and showed me a lot of stuff. And the list goes on and on. But yeah, to be around Miles was incredible because he was in 1982 when I joined his band. You know, there was a big thing about Miles coming back. He was the biggest name in jazz, and from an artistic point of view, not from, you know, I mean, it wasn't like there was no Kenny G. Jazz was jazz, you know, and Miles was the great innovator, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like a great time, man. I mean,
and it was
I
fun.
missed out on all that stuff.
Well, you know, every generation, you're thinking, oh, I missed out on that, right? I'm thinking, oh, I missed out on Charlie Parker and Coltrane and stuff. So we all missed out on the stuff we love.
Yeah.
Because when we learn to play, we're listening to the stuff that's from 10 years before. Because that's the best stuff around, right? I mean, I guess there are some people that are just in the moment, only listen and learn from the music that's happening right around them. And I envy them. Yeah. Because they can be right in it, you know?
I remember when I was at GIT, you came and did it was a concert kind of clinic, and Alan Holdsworth was sitting there.
He was
watching
there?
you. Yeah,
Wow.
He came in just to watch your gig, you know, which
Man,
I thought was pretty...
you know, Alan has always been really nice to me, and all the great guitar players that I know, you know, that are sort of from my generation, like Alan and Pat Metheny and Bill Frisell and John Abercrombie, and meeting John McLaughlin, you know, and all these guys, and Jim Hall, the older
Pat Martino.
They've all been really nice. Alan, I remember when Tony Williams had his fusion band, I was in Billy Cobham's fusion band, and they brought Alan in from England, you know, to play. And so I met Alan way back then.
That, the Billy Cobham band, George Duke Live, I used to have that record. I don't know if I'm playing this right. What was this?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's my little tune that
That's
I
your
wrote
tune,
for them.
right?
Yeah.
What was that called?
Ivory Tattoo.
Ivory Tattoo. I don't remember what key it was in.
I don't even know either.
That's such a great riff. Man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where I got that from. But that was a great thing for me to get to play with Billy and George. What a lot of people remember that band. That was before Miles or any of that. That was really my big break.
That was your big break, but were you doing your own solo stuff before
I was doing stuff. No, before I met Billy Cobb, I wasn't doing anything. I met him in 1975, January of 75. I joined his band and moved to New York all at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't do it. I was nothing before. I mean, I'd gotten to play a little with Jerry Mulligan.
Yeah.
But other than that, Billy Cobb discovered me. And I got to play in his band. For the first year, it was in the beginning, it was with the Brecker Brothers were in the band. And that blew my mind because I was a huge fan of theirs. And then some other horn players, Larry Snyder and Walt Fowler, came in. He kept the horn band going, but then later, for over a year, we had the George Duke Billy Cobham band with Alfonso Johnson on bass, and so this was great, man. We got to tour all over the place in Europe and America.
Frankenstein Goes to the Disco. That was one.
Yeah, that was one of the tunes.
Yeah.
And George's incredible stuff, and he was a great friend and a real mentor to me. And
what a great player! Man.
Talk about
Amazing.
some soul! Wow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know. He told me, I had heard him with Cannonball before that because he played in Cannonball Adderley's band, and then he joined Zappa. But I had heard him a lot, and then he once told me that the way he played the Moog, he was famous for that, playing the blues, that he was originally trying to imitate Yusef Lateef.
Wow.
Yusef Lateef on oboe.
Wow.
Because Yusef played like blues oboe. Nobody else that I've heard has done that. Mm-hmm. And George thought of that when he was playing the Moog,
Yusef Lateef, what is that record, Live at Pips?
Yeah, Live at Pips.
With James Black.
From New Orleans.
Yeah. That's a pretty out there record, man.
He was beautiful.
I was listening to Buddy Rich the other day. Shio had never heard Buddy Rich, so we were listening.
Oh, the tape?
Motherfuckers are sucking all over it.
She was probably like,
she loved it, yeah.
She loved it. But you know what's a drag, man? Everybody knows about Buddy Rich because of that.
Well, he was an amazing drummer, though, man.
Yeah, I mean, I met, there's this old guy up here who used to play with him. And he was saying, "Oh yeah, everybody, all the young musicians know about is that tape."
Yeah. A lot of your stuff, man, a lot of your grooves and things, especially Medeski, Martin, and Wood, and some of the things with Bill Stewart too. They seem like really a lot of second line influences, a lot of New Orleans kind of stuff. Yeah. And then you had Johnny V in your band at some point. I mean, Did you ever listen to a lot of New Orleans music?
Well, absolutely. And what I tell people is, the very first stuff I fell in love with as a kid, turned out was New Orleans music, was early jazz. I remember hearing Louis Armstrong, and loving the rhythm that those guys made. And then the early rock and roll stuff I loved, so much of it was recorded in New Orleans and the R&B, And I didn't even know that there was this New Orleans connection till later on. And, of course, I love the Meters. When they first came out, I didn't even know they were from New Orleans. And so the R&B, and I remember when you look back at a lot of the R&B, the greatest tracks, came out of New Orleans, which I didn't even know that, Chris Kenner and Lee Dorsey.
Yeah.
And these old R&B things that I really liked. And then later in kind of the 70s, I started to realize where it came from, and became a fan of the Wild Tchoupitoulas record,
a great record,
and all that stuff, and really started to study it, and would go down to New Orleans some. And I remember there was a guy who had who brought jazz musicians down, Jonathan Rose, and he brought me down to play at Tyler's Beer Garden, just with me and Johnny Vodakovich and Jim Singleton.
Wow.
And that's when it really, really hit me, the way Johnny played and stuff, that there were people that played in that style that could use it in a jazz idiom, you know.
And what were you guys playing on those gigs?
Just
were you playing your own
and stuff.
tunes?
But I remember, I don't think so. We were just jamming. But I remember we would do Freedom Jazz Dance, and he would play a second line on it, you know. And so we were doing these kind of, you know, jazz funk tunes, but he would put a second line on it.
Yeah.
And that was quite a revelation to me, you know. But by then I had already had things of the Mardi Gras Indians and stuff, and said, oh, wow, this is great. I was always aware of New Orleans because my mother was from New Orleans, and I had family down there that were by no means music people, you know, but I was aware of this music. And people should not ever discount for a second the fact that jazz came from New Orleans. And I'm talking about the early jazz, you know, Jelly Roll Morton and Louis Armstrong and this music, that rhythm is what...
Sidney Bechet.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And that rhythm from the city that came from 100 and something years ago is the root of all of the stuff we know as New Orleans music, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that whole Poinciana groove and that whole
that's
thing.
That's a New Orleans drummer and
Vernell Fournier, I think was the first cat, right? Yeah, I love all that stuff too, man. I remember hearing that your version of Sissy Strut years ago, and I liked the way you modulated because everybody does it the same way.
Yeah, I don't know.
The way you.
I was sort of, you know, we were just trying to think of something. We went to A flat
or something. It was cool.
Jazz guy, you know.
No, it was great, man.
To record that at the time, you know, because it was sort of before the new interest in the meters, you know, the 90s interest in the meters. And it was just a tune that we could play. As soon as the Sissy Strut came out, it was a hit on the radio, and every bar band played it in whatever year that was.
It became like Mustang Sally.
It was just like Mustang Sally or Midnight Hour. It was one of the tunes that everybody played on pickup gigs.
But you know, everybody plays it wrong. I mean,
I think we all play it wrong.
Not your version. You did a completely cool thing. But like, I've played it with Porter and these guys, you know, George Porter a million times, or any of the guys in New Orleans. They're so picky about it because the B section, you know, most people go right. That's what most people do.
Right. What is it?
It's. Right, I mean it's so
one note different.
It's one note different, but George will stop the band.
Well,
like, whoa, no, you're playing it wrong. You know, you're playing it.
I know. Well, that's you know, hey, you know, that's you know, that's their incredible repertoire. You know,
and I think Leo plays it down here.
That's the way. That sounds like the original.
I think he plays it down there. Yeah.
I played wrong notes and everything. But I
love that version.
You know what?
Man.
I don't care. I kind of like when people just do it their way.
I know.
On everything.
Why does it have to be?
Yeah. You know, because it's not written in
You've
stone.
already recorded it. The meters have already. Here it is.
Yeah. And their version that you can only be them. Yeah. Right.
Well. Man, I think we got a lot of good stuff. Yeah.
Hey Shane, it's so great to hang with you and hear you play the guitar because there's some incredible stuff coming out of that instrument. And
oh man, thank you.
And that groove is happening.
You don't have to say that, man. Come on.
Yeah, it's the truth. I don't have to. So you know.
Riff Raff.
All right, there you go, everybody. If you're still listening, thank you. Thank you, John Scofield. And I'd also like to say thank you to my friends at True Fire, Allie and Brad, for their support and also great ideas and feedback launching this podcast. And also to my friend Jack Mealy down at Music Shed Studios in New Orleans, Louisiana, for helping out on some of the editing. Thank you, Jack. And thank you, everyone out there, for listening. See you next time. Today's intro and closing music is Trashy from my solo record, Highway 90. Check it out if you want to hear more. Thanks.
Did you know Amazon provides ways of working that fits your lifestyle? They know you value your time outside of work, juggling family, school, friends, or other activities. That's why they offer a variety of shifts that work for you. There are full-time, part-time, and even temporary opportunities that can work with your schedule, with great starting pay and sign-on bonuses. If you want a career that fits and adapts to your lifestyle, head to amazon.com/apply. Amazon is a proud equal opportunity employer.
A college degree was in your future. Then life took a different turn. Jump back into school with confidence in a program designed for adults like you. Experience the support of a personal enrollment counselor. They'll walk with you through every step of the enrollment process. Move smoothly from one course to the next, with books delivered right to you before each course. Returning to school can be seamless when you have the right support. Thrive without ceasing. Start today at adult.cornerstone.edu.